Well, Merry Christmas. So good to see all of you here with us tonight. Excited to be able to worship and celebrate Jesus with you. If I haven't met you yet, if you're new with us, my name is Joe Thompson. I'm one of the ministers here with Smithfield Christian Church, and we're excited to have you celebrating Christmas with us. This month, every Sunday, we have been looking at different Christmas traditions. And maybe we've kind of hit one of your favorite traditions over these past several weeks, or maybe we haven't hit your tradition just yet. Maybe there's one that you love to participate in and we didn't quite hit it. But tonight, we're going to look at one more tradition, and that is the tradition of Christmas lights. You know, every Christmas, we surround ourselves with lights, right? We put them on our trees. We put them on our houses. We break out the different candles that we might put around our house and light them up. We even go through neighborhoods and we see the candles lit. There was a neighborhood near where I grew up back in Seaford that every Christmas Eve, it was only on Christmas Eve, they would line the street in their neighborhood. It was just one road that went far back in, one street where they would line it with luminaries every Christmas Eve. And so after Christmas Eve service, our family would go to dinner, and then on the way home, we would drive through that neighborhood. And it was always so cool to look forward to that and see those lights, beautiful as they were, lining there. And I don't know about you, but one of my favorite traditions is Christmas lights. In fact, last night, our family did kind of a newer tradition that we've done ever since we had kids. We go on one evening close to Christmas, we go and get dinner together as a family, and then we go and drive through neighborhoods and see Christmas lights. And there's always like those neighborhoods where it's like, oh, we got to go back to that one place and see that one display. There's a couple you can get out of the cars and walk through and stuff. And then every once in a while you kind of stumble across another one, a brand new one that you maybe haven't seen before. There's actually a hospital up in Michigan that every year they kind of do something special with Christmas lights. And I want you to watch this video about what they do.
A tradition known as moonbeams for sweet dreams is making a difference tonight at Beaumont Children's Hospital. It started in 2017 and has grown each and every year. Dozens of people gather outside to shine flashlights into the rooms of pediatric patients during the holiday season. 7 Action News reporter Brett Cast tells us what makes this so very meaningful.
A shining light when people need it most. Metro Detroiters showing up in numbers, sending a message of hope, using only a flashlight or a giant decked-out electrical truck.
Decorating is easy, but making everything stay on the truck at 50 miles an hour is quite a feat.
With nearly 20,000 lights, Carl Sim and his DT truck park outside Beaumont Royal Oak Children's Hospital, along with hundreds of others coming out for the annual Moonbeams for Sweet Dreams. Every night at 8 p.m., for a few weeks before Christmas, people gather, shining lights towards the children, who often shine theirs right back.
For me, it's very special because when I was 15 years old, I had an accident and I spent a week in this hospital as a kid. So for me, it's really big to come here and do something to give back.
You have no idea what it feels like inside looking out. It's like looking into a sky of stars.
Shelly Chin is one of a few parents who knows what it's like. Her daughter, who suffers from epilepsy, spent time in the hospital and got to see the lights from inside. Shelly is a teacher at Cranbrook and brings her students here every year with an important lesson.
When they're looking out here, it's just about hope and community and caring, and that there are people that care about them that don't even know them. And it's a good lesson for both of us to learn, inside looking out and outside looking in.
A lesson in love being taught to everyone young and old, coming together with a special message that in dark times, light always shines the brightest.
It's amazing to see this many people come together to do something good out of the goodness of their heart, to care about other people, because you don't see much of that anymore these days. And it's a wonderful feeling to be here and watch people that care.
Light is a really amazing thing, and when you stop and think about it, light can do more than just make it easier to see in dark places. Light can bring comfort, light can bring hope, light can bring peace. And the light that came through the very first Christmas through Jesus brought the greatest hope of all, which is important because the world can be a pretty dark place at times. And sometimes that darkness that we experience in the world can kind of come from within ourselves, things like depression and sadness and loneliness and doubt and fear. Other times, the darkness that we experience is things that comes from external sources. maybe struggles within relationships that we have in our lives, hardships at work or at school, or even just like the uncertainty of life at times. And then there's even those times that it's a little bit of both, right? Kind of the darkness is within and the darkness is also outside of us. Even just the time of year when the days seem to be shorter and the nights are longer, even that can be a difficult thing. In fact, I think it's kind of interesting that we're celebrating Christmas just a couple days after the longest night of the year. We're celebrating Christmas, the day of hope and light. And when you think about it, when Jesus came into the world, even in those days, man, it was especially dark for them. Many people lived under the oppression of the Roman Empire with heavy taxes and very little freedom. Poverty was widespread. Most families had very little and not a safety net to fall back onto. Medical care was very limited, and disease and even infant mortality was common. And even physically, like nights were physically dark. There was no electricity, no streetlights, making things dangerous and uncertain at times. Even violence and injustice were often unchecked, especially for the poor and the powerless. But you think even spiritually for God's people, they had experienced 400 years that God went silent. From the last prophet that he spoke through until Jesus came, 400 years where the prophets did not receive a message from God. God didn't send a sign, perform miracles, nothing. Even religious leaders during that time decided to move away from more of a relationship with God and more about rules and regulations, overburdening people and making them weary in their walk with faith. And many people even felt distant from God. They weren't sure if God saw them or if he even cared. There was still hope for a Messiah, but even for them, it was mixed with confusion and disappointment and fear. People longed for light and truth and rescue, but they didn't often find it where they thought they would or how they thought they would. But then we read the great news that comes when we see it in Luke chapter 2. It says this: "In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This is the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up to the town of Nazareth in Galilee, to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them." You think about this situation for Joseph and Mary. At this point, Mary is very pregnant, and they now have to travel to Bethlehem from Nazareth, which is like for them probably like a week's travel in this difficult time. So this wasn't like a quick trip or just a momentary inconvenience. No, this was a long, exhausting journey that was forced upon them. And not only that, when they finally get there, there's no place for them to stay. And so in the moment of that crisis happening, it's time for the baby to be born. And they probably felt like they weren't ready. But in that moment, the light of the world was born. And it's almost like the declaration was made that the light of Jesus can defeat any darkness. No matter the source, no matter the intensity of the darkness, no matter how deep, cold, and dark it might be, Jesus brings light. John says it in this way in John 1:5. He says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." And the amazing thing about light itself is that it doesn't just expose the darkness, man, it overcomes the darkness. It makes the darkness run in fear in the face of light. I mean, you think about how that physically works. Maybe you've used like your flashlight on your phone to look for something in your dark car or whatever when you're trying to find things. As I was working on this message, for some reason, I had this memory pop to mind of when I was a kid. You know, we didn't have cell phones to look or read for things and books in the car. And so if I ever wanted to read something or look at something while I was in the car as a kid, I don't know about you, but what I would do is I would hold it up so that the headlights of the car behind us would shine on it, and then I could finally see, because we were not about to turn on the overhead light in the car while we were driving at night, right? And it didn't take very much, though. Even just a small amount of light brings the light into the darkness. And so when you allow Jesus' light into your life, man, it does so much. It brings hope when circumstances feel overwhelming. It offers forgiveness when it frees us from the guilt and the shame that hold us down. It provides peace in the middle of our anxiety and our uncertainty. It gives direction when we feel lost and unsure of our next steps in life. It restores our identity when it reminds us of who we are, but also whose we are. It brings comfort in our grief and in our loss. It sparks love and compassion for others, even when they're difficult to love. It creates joy that isn't dependent on our circumstances and our situations. You see, Jesus doesn't just expose the dark portions of our lives. No, he overcomes them with his light. But here's the deal. When it comes to the light of Jesus that we receive, when he comes into those dark places in our lives and he brings the light in, we aren't called to just kind of keep that light to ourselves. In fact, Jesus said in Matthew 5:16, he says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Think of it as a Christmas gift that you are given and then meant to give to someone else, that you're meant to share. The light that he has given to us is not meant to just stay with us. He invites us. Actually, he calls us. He expects us that we would give that light and share it with others as well. You see, once we've received the light of Christ, we become kind of like reflectors of that light. And not just so that people notice us and see us, but so that they see God. In fact, Paul even echoes this when he writes in Ephesians 5:8. He says, "For you were once darkness." And I love it. He doesn't say you were once in darkness. He says you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. And the way when we share that light, man, it kind of makes me think of even like what we're going to do in a little while here. If you've never been a part of our Christmas Eve services, we always finish it with candles, and we always finish up by lighting these candles that you got on your way in. And it's really amazing to kind of watch what happens as you light a few candles and then a few more are lit and a few more. It's like the glow kind of slowly works its way back through the room. And the cool thing is that when the people up front light their candles and they pass it, it's not like their light is diminished any. If anything, it just adds to the rest of the light in the room as it spreads. And if Jesus has brought light into your darkness, then it's our responsibility, it's our job, our calling to go and find someone else who needs that light in their life too. Christmas isn't just about us receiving Jesus and receiving his light. It's about us carrying that light and extending that light to someone else too. In fact, I would challenge you even right now in this moment to think about who is it someone in your life that maybe needs the light of Jesus right now. Maybe is going through a hardship. Maybe is going through a difficult time. Maybe feels secluded and isolated. Even sometimes when they're in the midst of so many people, they feel left out and they could use some light. How could you shine some light that you have received into their life? Friends, my prayer for you this Christmas is that you would receive and experience the light of Jesus. But then beyond that, my prayer is that you would then go and shine that light. Pray with me. Father God, we thank you for the light of Jesus that's come into our lives. We thank you that you loved us enough, that you looked into our lives, into our world, and you saw that things were not as it should be. You saw the sin and saw the darkness, and you made a way to bring light, made a way to bring hope. And God, as we celebrate that light that's come into our world, Lord, would you burden us? Would you burden our hearts for those in our lives, those in our world who need that light as well? God, I pray that as we celebrate Christmas and as we get excited about all this, Lord, would you help us even to see the people around us, maybe our neighbors, maybe our family, maybe people that we work with or we go to school with or we're on the team with that need some light. God, would you help us to see how we could bring your light into their life so that they could experience that hope as well. We thank you for Jesus. We thank you for Christmas. We thank you for all it means as he came to rescue us. And it's in Jesus' name that I pray.